You got the promotion. You hit the number. You finally bought the thing you spent years telling yourself would fix the feeling. And for maybe a day, sometimes not even that long, it actually worked. Then the feeling came back, quiet, familiar, like it had just been waiting in the next room the whole time. Still not enough. Still behind. Still somehow the same person you were before any of it happened. If that sounds exhausting, that's because it is. And if you're someone who's lived inside that feeling for years, achievement after achievement, goal after goal, and it never once delivered the peace it promised, I want you to actually hear this. There is nothing wrong with your ambition. What's wrong is the story your mind has quietly attached to it. And today we're going to pull that story apart, piece by piece, with real psychology, not just comfort talk. Let's start with the obvious question. Why does this happen? Why can someone hit goals most people would consider genuinely impressive and still lie awake feeling like a fraud who hasn't actually accomplished anything real? The first answer comes from something psychologists call the hedonic treadmill, a term introduced by researchers Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell back in the 1970s. Their research found something almost cruel about human happiness. We adapt fast. Whatever brings you joy today, a new job, a new relationship, a new achievement, your brain treats it as the new normal within weeks, sometimes days. The goalpost doesn't just move, it evaporates and reappears somewhere further out, every single time. So you're not imagining that satisfaction fades quickly. It's not a personal failure, it's how the human brain is built to work for almost everyone, whether they admit it or not. But the hedonic treadmill alone doesn't fully explain it, because plenty of people adapt to their wins and still feel generally okay about their lives. There's usually something else running underneath, something a little more personal. And it usually starts way before any of these achievements ever happen. Picture a kid, maybe 8 or 9 years old, who brings home a report card with 5 A's and 1 B. And the first thing that gets said, even gently, even lovingly, is something about that B. What happened with this one? Not malicious. Not even memorable to the parent who said it, but the kid hears something very specific in that moment. My good results were expected. My one flaw is what actually got noticed. Do that enough times, across enough report cards, enough recitals, enough almost perfect moments, and a child starts building their entire sense of worth around a system that can never actually be satisfied because the bar just keeps sliding to wherever they currently are. Plus one more thing. Psychologists call this conditional self-worth, and it's been studied extensively by researchers like Jennifer Crocker, whose work found that when people base their self-esteem on external validation, on achievement, appearance, or approval, they experience far more anxiety and far less actual satisfaction, even when they succeed, compared to people whose self-worth isn't tied to constant proving. The achievement stops being something you do. It becomes something you have to keep doing forever, just to maintain a baseline sense that you're allowed to exist comfortably in your own life. Here's where it gets even more specific. And if this hasn't been named for you before, it might land hard. There's a term coined by psychologist Tal Ben-Shahar called the Arrival Fallacy. It's the deeply held, almost invisible belief that once you arrive somewhere, the job, the relationship, the number in your bank account, you'll finally feel settled, finally feel like enough. The research is strikingly consistent on this. People who achieve major goals report a brief spike in satisfaction, and then, almost without exception, they return to their baseline level of contentment, whatever that baseline happened to be before the achievement. If your baseline was "I'm not enough," that's exactly where you land again. Not because the achievement didn't count, because the achievement was never actually the thing that was broken. This is why you can watch someone else celebrate the exact same milestone you just hit and genuinely feel happy for them while feeling almost nothing for yourself in the same moment. It's not hypocrisy. It's because your nervous system isn't actually responding to the achievement itself. It's responding to whether the achievement finally silences a very old, very specific voice. And that voice usually isn't asking about your resume. It's asking a much older question, something closer to, Am I safe to be loved without earning it first? There's also a physiological piece to this that rarely gets talked about. Constantly chasing the next achievement keeps your nervous system in a low-grade state of activation, similar to what researchers studying stress response describe as anticipatory anxiety. Your body staying braced for the next requirement before the current one has even finished being enjoyed. Over years, this doesn't just feel exhausting emotionally. It becomes a physical pattern. Some people describe it as never being able to just sit in a win. The moment something good happens, some part of them is already scanning for what comes next, because stopping to actually feel proud has started to feel unfamiliar, almost unsafe. Now here's the part that tends to surprise people the most. The people who struggle with this the hardest are very rarely lazy or unaccomplished. It's almost always the opposite. They're the high performers, the ones everyone else looks at and assumes must feel completely secure. Because look at everything they've built. From the outside, it reads as confidence. From the inside, it's often a treadmill that's been running since childhood, and nobody's ever handed them the stop button. So what actually helps here? Because awareness alone doesn't undo 20 years of a pattern. The first shift is recognizing that the goalpost moving isn't proof you haven't done enough. It's proof the system was never designed to be satisfied in the first place. That's not a flaw in you. That's the mechanism doing exactly what it was built to do. The second is something researchers in this space often point to directly, which is practicing what's sometimes called savoring, deliberately pausing after an achievement before jumping to the next goal, and actually staying in the feeling for a few minutes longer than feels natural. It sounds small. It is small. But for a nervous system that's spent years skipping straight from finish line to next starting line, that pause is doing real measurable work. And the third, the one that's genuinely hardest, is starting to separate your worth from your output. Even just a little, even just as an experiment, trying, even once, to let yourself be liked or loved or simply present, without having produced anything to earn it that day. For someone who's spent their whole life proving, that can feel almost unbearable at first. But that discomfort isn't a warning sign that something's wrong. It's just old wiring, noticing that the rules might finally be changing. You were never actually behind. You were running a race that was quietly designed to never have a finish line, one built a long time ago by people and moments that had nothing to do with who you actually are today. That doesn't mean stop achieving things. It means letting the achieving finally be separate from your right to feel like enough right now, exactly as you are. If this one hit home, hit subscribe. There's a lot more of this kind of thing coming.